Okay, I'm not gonna lie. The title of this is such bullshit. I'm gonna title this, as you can tell already, Monster in Law, and that's absolute horseshit. And I don't say that because I think there's like not times when in-laws can be monsters or vice versa. Because technically, you're an in-law, you're the daughter-in-law or son-in-law. Obviously, I'm speaking from that perspective because I'm not a father-in-law yet, where you can be a nightmare too. So it's kind of like I'm titling that probably for clickbait, if I'm being absolutely honest, because I'm gonna come at this at a very like realistic approach. And so my best piece of advice is go grab your monster-in-law and get ready to get some therapy. Get ready for a therapy session with Ricky B. Um, but look, I actually have to look right now because I was like stunned. I wanted to know if I should do this episode or if I should do an episode about telling other people your business, like your relationship business, which I'm not a proponent of, to say the least. I don't like when people do that. And so I was like curious to see what everybody thought. And if we go to the votes, we got a 60-40 on my story, 31,000 views. Okay. 3,460 people voted that we do relationship with in-laws, and only 2,200 and some change voted that we do telling people your business, which I'm going to do both, but the in-laws one came first. And I have to be honest, I was surprised, but I think a lot of people struggle with their in-laws. I got some DMs like, can you talk about my relationship with in-laws? And then I saw MILs. What the fuck is that? They're to mother-in-law. And a lot of it is from daughter to mother-in-law, which I honestly, I'm neither of those. So sit down with your in-laws, hear me out, or sit down by yourself and then send this to your significant other so you can explain why you feel the way you feel. If it's negative, and if it's positive, then listen to this podcast so you can hear the drama of what other people are going through. But look, let me set the scene. There's definitely three primary things, maybe two primary things that go on when it comes to in-laws, and one big factor is you guys are looking for different things. So sometimes you have a mother-in-law that is looking for a fucking daughter, or she's looking for a son, whatever it may be, or sometimes it's most of the time it's the same sex that kind of attaches to, because as they're being invited, it's just like the natural comfortability. Like, I'm a man, you married a woman, you're a man, you married a woman, now I'm marrying your daughter, so you understand, per se, right? Whatever angle you look at it from. So oftentimes you find someone looking for what the other person is not. And this is where like the first complication is. So if there's two things that go on, this is the first complication, where you have a mother-in-law looking for a daughter. She's like ready to accept a new daughter. And granted, you're obviously not her daughter and you're not looking for a mother. Like, you have a mommy, or you're good in that department. And so you both are having a huge disconnect because they're like trying to be involved in your life at a capacity that would fit a mother's involvement, and you're not looking for a mom, so you're just like, leave me the fuck alone, right? Or you're like, I'm kind of the main woman in his life now, like, you got to take the back seat, right? So like that's the one disconnect. And then I would say the other disconnect, and they may tie hand in hand, but the other disconnect, the huge thing that's going on, is one of you is not appreciating the position of the other. And so from one perspective, if you are the daughter-in-law, so I'm assuming your position, you may be looking at the mother-in-law like, why is this lady always in my business? Or like, why does she want to be blah, blah, blah? Like, just so you know, that's your husband's mom. And I'm in the parent space, so I'm assuming y'all have a kid. But if you don't, this still applies. But if you do have a kid, like, how you feel about your kid is how that mom feels about your husband, right? And so you got to understand that if they're pressy or in your business, like, that's their child. Like, you have to respect that that is the reality. Like, this isn't their best friend. It's their blood mother, right? Or vice versa. You're the mother-in-law, and hopefully I do have some mother-in-laws on my podcast and you're listening to my young ass, but maybe I could shed some light in the position. I'm still wise beyond my years, and you're looking at that daughter-in-law like, that, what? I've been around for, let's say, 25 years. Like, who is this bitch? Like, that's the woman that your son chose to marry. So if you think highly of your son and you think highly of his decision-making abilities, and he decided on this woman, like, maybe you're not giving enough respect There's plenty of fish in the sea, plenty of fish. And your son landed on this girl, right? Or your daughter landed on this boy, whichever gender you're looking at it. And so you kind of got to respect that decision, even if you don't want to. And so those are the two huge disconnects. And I'm going to go off on a tangent on both of them. So the first one, you're struggling with your mother-in-law, right? And you're not looking for a mom. This is what, I've talked about this before, boundaries is huge, right? And so you kind of need to set boundaries that are respectful, because you're not obligated to look for a mom. You're not obligated to be like, yep, I need a second mom. Like, go ahead and just fucking infiltrate my life and let me tell you my deepest, darkest secrets. Like, that's not your mommy. Like, you may not need that. And so, but you got to be clear and concise. You can't harbor this thought like, yo, why is this lady always in my business? Or fuck, I don't need another mom telling me what to do, or I don't care about her fucking opinion. You can't harbor all that inside and then just be like, hey, how are you? Like, you gotta, not saying you gotta be rude, but you gotta tell your partner, and that's where it needs to start, with your partner. Hey, your mom is very, very sweet. She's extremely involved. I appreciate all the help, right? Mind you, before I get into this is pending that you don't have a fucking monster situation, right? Like, if you have a degenerate mother-in-law or father-in-law that's causing you trouble, I'll spend a few minutes at the end talking about that. But for now, let's assume everything's somewhat healthy. Maybe they're just overstepping their boundary. Hey, I love you, Bill Bob, and your mom is just very, very involved, and it's tough for me. It's very tough for me. I'm not looking for a mommy. I have a mommy. And so I need you to set the boundary with her that you are trying to build your own family. And you're going to hate that I say this. Some people are going to be like, Ricky's a jackass for saying this. And in order for me to build my family with you, we almost need to focus on our family. I'm not going to tell you need to detach from your old family, but we kind of need to focus on our current family. And that may sound like, oh my God, you need a village. Ricky, what the fuck are you talking about? Blah, 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 blah. But the reality is, when me and Rachel lived with my mother, although everybody was close and everything was fine and dandy, the relationship always was capped between everyone. Like, I would get aggravated with my mom. My mom would get aggravated with me. Rachel didn't want to go in the kitchen and cook if my mom was cooking because she felt like she was like, it was always capped by not having our own space, right? And so it's a necessity to create that space, work on your own family in order to present your own family to your old family, right? And so you need to set that boundary with your partner, because ultimately, if your partner doesn't know this, key them in when I say this, it's their job to have their family at the line at which you guys agree upon. So if the line is, hey, your mom needs to tell me when she's coming over, she can't just like come in the fucking house whenever, like, we pay the rent here, I want to be able to walk around naked, and your mom just like opens my front door because she has a key to it, like, I can't have all that. Like, if the line is not there, then you need to set a new line, right? And so you need to be like, hey, the line's got to be at, she's not got to schedule visits, but she's got to schedule visits, right? I got to know when she's coming over. I want to have the dishes done, whatever it may be. Like, she's really crossing the line, because I'm not looking for a mommy. So like, I don't need her to just pop in. And so that's a huge disconnect. And I'll speak from the mother-in-law's perspective too. So you can, because like I said, whether I titled this episode Monster-in-Law or not, I don't think, the only time you could be wrong is if you're completely disregarding what the other in-law is saying, right? So if you're the daughter-in-law disregarding, you're wrong. And if the mother-in-law is disregarding you, they're wrong. But if y'all are open to perspective, take a listen. And if you're the mother-in-law, and from the mother-in-law's perspective, like, again, that is her son, right? And so I'm just using this perspective, but you can use it any way you want. That is, like, Laguna's my daughter. So I want to feel like I can go to her house and check in on her if I want to. But if she invites a man in her life, and that's the number one guy now, like, I kind of got to understand where they're at, and for me, and understand for the parent-in-law, it's gonna be tough. Like, you are giving away your child to another person's care, and inevitably, the one thing that stays true about parenthood is that it is hard to replicate the love a parent in which loves their child. And so, no matter what decisions Laguna makes, I mean, you got Jeffrey Dahmer's mom probably advocating that he wasn't such a bad guy or whatever, right? But he was a fucking terrible guy. But the way a parent loves their child, it's very hard to just disregard that and pretend like it's easy to give up. And so that in-law, although they may be annoying you, if your mother-in-law is annoying you and she may be overstepping boundaries. That seems like the general consensus of DMs I got. Like, they're sharing their opinion so much, they're always in my business, right? Like, blah, 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 of what people are facing. Like, know that they probably don't understand what is happening and what's occurring in the relationship that's changing in front of them. And they need to be let known, and they need to be given a fair chance. So if your partner hasn't set the tone with them, like if your partner is just like, yeah, mom, like fucking, everything's good. Like, we'd love to have you over every day of the week, right? Like, if your partner is doing that to their own mother, they're setting their own mother up for failure, especially with you. And you're probably like aggravated, like, oh my God, I don't want your mom around. But your partner hasn't set the tone with them at all. And oftentimes I'm using this example because I see it a lot, where mother-in-laws are like frustrating daughter-in-laws, right? And I think it's because as a woman, you're a family builder, and that's the sexist cliche thing to say, but like in my family, I'm the family builder, right? Like, in my little family, like I'm the fucking family builder. All right, I love it. I love it. It's amazing. And my mom is not like cramping Rachel style, which I'm appreciative, but my mom has social cues. But I've also set the tone with my mom where I'm like, yo, like, this is okay, this is not okay. Yes, we invite you to this. This is, we're just going to do this alone. So like, my mom is set up for success. She's not surprised. She doesn't think, like, she's not being held back, because I invite the conversation with Rachel to tell me what she finds appropriate and not. And so if we were going to go on a trip and I'm like, oh, let's just leave Laguna with my mom, and Rachel was like, oh, I don't want to, like, then it's said and done. I'm not going to be like, oh, what? Like, no, it's cool, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Like, I advocate on the position of Rachel, instead of, like, my mom is the receiver in this equation, right? She receives the template we lay out for her. That's really what it is. Rachel's not on the receiving end of my mom's wants and needs, right? My mom is on the receiving end of me and Rachel's needs and wants, right? Because my time with my mother has passed, right? And I remember my mom looked at me right when I was moving, and I was like, oh, well, yeah, well, I'll see you for your birthday, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, no, it's okay. Or like Mother's Day or something. She's like, no, it's okay. Like, you're starting your own family now. Like, you got Rachel. And I could see like the somber moment, and I hugged her. I'm like, yo, you're mom. Like, I fucking love you. You're my everything. You'll always be my first love. Like, what? We're close as can close be. But my mom understood the social cue, like, yo, I think it was the first Mother's Day before Laguna was born. Like, you got to focus on Ray too. And like, that's really what it is. It's the truth. Like, my mom has to be on the receiving end of what me and Rachel allow into our life. I want you to put your relationship. So now get rid of your monster-in-law and bring in your spouse to this conversation, right? And have them hear this. Your relationship is the other side of a dam. Okay. And you can control the water flow of what you allow in and what you put out. But if you have those floodgates open and you're constantly being, bombarded with water, and what I mean by water is like your in-laws' influence, there's sufferance that's going to happen. And if you are the other side of a dam, consider yourself completely comfortable with the water flow because you've been having it your whole life. Your ravine has eroded to the influence of your parents, but you just invited a new person into that ravine, and you can't tell them to just sit there and get fucked. Like, hey, my mom is just that involved. Like, especially as an adult, I think after a certain age, like, if your mommy is ruling your life still and she's making your girlfriend's life hell as the mother-in-law, like, that's fucking crazy, dude. Like, you gotta set the tone with your family that you have I hate to say this sounds fucked up, that you have a new family. Like, I'm sorry, I hate to say that, but it's the truth. Like, Rachel's sister, for example, she says it good to Rachel sometimes because Rachel's the baby of the family. She'll say, like, well, on Christmas, because Rachel will want to go out there for Christmas. She's like, well, what are you doing for Christmas? You can be at mom's. And she'll say, like, well, we want to do Christmas with our son, Mav, and Zach. And I remember when I first got with Rachel before she was pregnant. So like, she was like, we were still in our single mode, but like dating, just like kind of like, yo, like what? And I remember Rachel being sad, like, oh my God, like for Christmas, they're going to do it at their house alone first. And I'm like, yeah, like they got to build their family, but they got to build their tradition. And now that we have Laguna, Rachel's like, yeah, we got to start doing like Easter here. Like, and here is wherever the family is, but it's like, we got to build our own tradition with our own little family, because if we never stand on our own 2 feet and we're constantly being pulled in one direction. Like you're going to get to the point in time. This is fucked up, but it's the truth. You're going to get to the point in time where in-laws and current parents are gone. I'm so sorry. They're gone. And then what do you have? You have 30 years of memories with them and none with your own. Like your kids, like my daughter's 8 months old, and that might not sound old to a lot of people, but I'm like, holy fuck, where did the time go? Like if all of my memories are just with the whole village there and none of them are like isolated memories with my little family of like what we built together, there's no legacy left behind. And so you kind of got to understand that you got to set the tone as the partner. And I know I'm off on a different tangent now, but if you're the partner of someone experiencing like an overload of in-law fucking scrutiny, you need to get involved immediately. And I hear this a lot, and it's like, this is crazy. Like, well, I just don't know what to say. Like, it's, it's my mom and it's my girl, and like I don't want to be like, bro, you grab your sack and like say so. Like you need to be like, yo, first of all, you can tell your girlfriend or your significant other, like, yo, let me handle this. All right. Like you getting all flustered and upset and you being unreasonable about this is only going to make it more difficult. So set the tone with them first. Like, look, hey, I hear your concern. My mom is in our shit. You fucking hate it. Got it. Good. Here's my plan of action. I'm going to go talk to my mom. We're going to sit down. It's going to be in this capacity. It's going to be in this context. And let's see a change. As the partner, you got to accept that fucking answer, right? Okay. All right. You're going to handle it. Sounds good. Now, if they don't handle it time and time again, like get out of the fucking relationship. You know what I mean? But then that partner, then you need to go to your parents, you need to go to your mom or dad and be like, yo, like, I'm really trying to build my own family. Like I need your support, and support looks different. Support looks different all the time. Right. So support when we have no money might be sending me $30,000. Support when I'm rich might be, can you clean my bathroom? I haven't got around to it because I'm working so much. Like support looks different in so many different ways. And so you can tell your mother, hey, right now, mom, support would look like backing off a little bit because I got to work on my own family right now. And if your parents can't take that, then you never set boundaries your whole life, and you guys do not have good communication. What you have in your life is entitlement, and you need to if entitlement is a dragon, you need to cut that motherfucker's head off, because entitlement could kill anything. Entitlement is the assumption that you deserve something based on your own beliefs, which is fucking crazy, especially in humanity, because oftentimes entitlement comes into play about someone else's free will, right? And so as the person that's tired of your in-laws, your free will is to like start your own family, be your own, right? And if that in-law is constantly berating you or you're under scrutiny from them, or they're involved in your life way too much because they feel entitled over your life, that's fucking bananas. And if your partner doesn't understand that that's fucking bananas, you need to lay it out. Let me talk to them. Send them my way. Because that's bananas, right? And if I do happen to have some mother-in-laws, please understand, listening to this, please understand that you're no less loved because you need to back off. You just need to be supporting this little family that's growing in a different way. And I think we all forget that we were them at one point. And so like, if I'm talking to a mother-in-law, like know that you were never able to build what you have with your son, this connection that you're not willing to let go, unless someone left you the fuck alone. And if everybody was in your shit all the time, you would feel the exact same way that this young woman feels like it. You have to put yourself in her shoes, whether you like it or not. And so I think that monster-in-law shit can happen, especially with these mothers and daughters-in-law when it comes to their son. Because I've seen a lot of this too. I've seen a lot of, oh, my baby can do no wrong. My son can do, and that shit is crazy. I've seen that where they think their little pookie ookie bookie boy son can do no wrong, and they don't like that a woman is in their life holding them accountable. That they don't like women are so nurturing and good at supporting, like giving up that role of nourishment. And women lead families. Like I don't like, a lot of people have this ideal that like men are like the leaders of family. Bullshit. Women lead families. Men oftentimes, oh my God, I'm getting sexist now, especially because in my family, like I feel like I play the woman role a lot. So I don't mean to get sexist, but what I do mean is that when this happens, sometimes I see mother-in-laws get this like protectiveness over their son, and that this girl is around them and you need to let that shit go. and your son needs to learn on his own. And if you babied your son his whole fucking life, you should be lucky he even found a woman to take him in, because there is nothing more fucking annoying than some mommy issues because you babied your son. I know kids in life that were babied by their little mommy, and they're the most aggravating fucking little boys in the world, and they're so helpless because mommy did everything. And so, and I mean, I'll be honest, I think Laguna's going to be a daddy's girl, and I'll probably do everything. I probably won't let that princess walk on her feet if she doesn't want to. So, like, I get it. I'm probably someone down the road that's going to be an enabler. But enabling your child is what creates all this bullshit in the first place. So please, God, don't do that. But anyway, what I'm saying is, you run into this problem when your partner doesn't want to set the boundary, and they have to. Your partner has to set the boundary. And if you're struggling with getting them to set the boundary, then you yourself need to make it really clear what your expectation is for them as a family. Like, yo, you got to tell your mom to back the fuck off, like straight up. And then, okay, so that's one hand, right? Is someone's looking for something that the other person's not. And then on the other hand, you have lack of respect for what that person's position is in. So I think I'm about to be devil's advocate a little bit. I think sometimes if the scenario is the same and you got a son and his mom and his wife are, arguing, right? A little mother-in-law, daughter-in-law situation. And you as the wife, daughter-in-law position are saying like, oh my God, like, why does your mom have to do that? Or like, why is your mom always calling you? Or like, why is your mom calling me? Why does your mom always want to come if we go to the aquarium? Why does your mom want to be there? Like, can't we just go as a family? Like, before you get so angry, first of all, we already talked about boundaries and what needs to happen. But before you get so angry, please try to understand that is what you are to your child, a mother, right? Assuming that you have kids, is what your boyfriend is to her. You're just a big one. It's not a baby anymore. It's a big baby. It's a human. It's 25. For me, I'm a 25-year-old man. So if my mommy wants to come visit me on Sunday, obviously Rachel and my mom are great. So that's awesome. We're on good terms. But imagine they weren't. My mommy's going to come visit me on Sunday because that's my mommy. And if I want a little hug from my fucking mommy, I'm going to go get a little hug from my fucking mommy. And that's okay. It's my fucking mommy. And so if Rachel had this is anytime I mention me and Rachel and our relationship with my mom, it's null and void unless I say positive things, because we all have a great relationship and that's why I'm going to use us. But if Rachel was pissed at my mommy for being involved, like I would caution Rachel that I would ask her to use empathy and be like, yo, it is my mom, G. Like, there's got to be a level of respect. And that's a huge thing. If you got a problem and you're trying to tell your partner, but you're being disrespectful about it, like, yo, you need to tell your mom to get the fuck away from it. Like, whoa. Like, if Rachel said that, I'd be like, slow down there, sister. Like, no one's telling anyone's mom to get the fuck away. But if you want to be mature and have a mature conversation about it, then we can. And also, I'm gonna go ahead and I feel like I've hit on that point enough. Like, if you're not throwing respect at the other person's position, you're gonna find a lot of animosity and hardship. But I kind of want to go down the rabbit hole a little bit of, if you're not respecting that person's position, how you can work it out with them alone. And so, like, this is kind of the rabbit hole I want to go down. If you're constantly putting the weight, and I know I just said it's your partner's job to set the boundary, and it is. It's absolutely your partner's job to set the boundary. But what I'm saying is, like, to have a tiff with a family member, you have to be comfortable with that shit all on its own. I'm going to tell a little anecdote here. And this is something Rachel is severely in fear. Her older sister is the middle child, and I'm the middle child, and we're both outspoken. And sometimes Rachel's like, oh my God, don't argue with don't, like, I'm a little argumentative. And while I was on vacation in Florida this last time, Rachel's nephew hit a table in our Airbnb with a metal ball that was a decoration. So, like, I'm going to paint the picture. We're in an Airbnb. There's little decoration balls, right? Like metal balls that you would get at like Marshall's. They're just decorations. And there's a marble table in the middle. So Rachel's nephew grabs the ball. He's 2.5, and he hits the table with it, right? And Rachel's older sister, Amy, was like, yo, don't do that, Mav, right? And I guess I gave a look. Probably true. I'm a very facially expressive person. And Amy calls me out, as she should. And she's like, you just looked at me like, get him the fuck out. And I'm like, no, I didn't. And I did it. I never thought once, like, I doubt Amy's listening to my podcast, but if you do, Amy, like, I never thought once, get Mav the fuck out of here. I love this little boy, Maverick. He's the best. Um, but I made a face, and I totally believe I did make a face because I'm a expressive person. I probably just made a face like, oh, but it came off the wrong way. But me and Amy had that tiff all by ourselves, and that's important. That's very, very important. And I tell Rachel when she's like, oh my God, like, please just be complicit and complacent and shut the fuck up and be content. And I tell her, I'm like, yo, we got to be able to like work this out. And like, I tell her all the time, if my little sister says something that you don't like be like, yo, I don't appreciate that. Or like whatever. And so me and Amy have this little tell. I'm like, no, I didn't. She's like, yeah, you did. I'm like, no, I didn't, dog. And she's like, okay. I'm like, I swear, bro. And we laughed it off and we were straight. And me and Amy have a great relationship. And or so I feel as if we do. And I'm sure she feels that way too. And at the end of the day, it's so vital that you're able to have these little conversations, because if you're constantly going through the middleman of your partner, like, you're just going to feel over and over again that, one, your relationship is non-existent with the mother-in-law, monster-in-law, father-in-law, whatever. It's non-existent. So it's even harder to address what you're fucking mad about because there's no relationship there. And then on top of that, you're putting a lot of weight on your partner, which your partner should set boundaries. I agree, but you're putting them weight on them for every fucking situation, which is crazy. Like, I cannot filter. And my mom taught me this because when Rachel was first coming over, I told my mom, like, don't you dare say any. Rachel's a dancer. So I'm like, don't you motherfuckers say she's a cheerleader. She's not a cheerleader. She's a dancer. Right. And so I've learned this for Rachel because I'm in love with her. And so as I've learned when to say cheerleader and when to say dancer, I expected and my mom was like, yo, Ricky, fuck off. Like, we're going to say what we're going to say, which of course we respect her. We're going to say dancer. That's not what my mom was saying, but she's like, but allow us to have our own connection, our own conversation, our own relationship with Rachel, or we're never going to build anything at all. And so whether that relationship is built through like little tiffs or it's built through argument, like, sometimes there's an argument that outbreaks. Like, if your mother-in-law is aggravating you time and time again, and you find yourself there for Easter Sunday again, and she says, hey, everybody get in for a family photos. Sally, can you take this? Pretending you're Sally. And you're like, what the fuck? Bitch, this is my family. Like, right? Like, you, like, speak up, be like, oh, I'm going to be in the photo with my husband and my child. Like, what? Like, that's crazy. Like, I have an app, and, attack everything with respect, but, oh, I have an app on my phone I could set up a timer, but I'm going to be in the photo. This is my family. Like, you know what I mean? If you feel yourself being pushed out, and I'm not saying that that's the most dramatic thing in the world, but if she's doing a lot of microaggressions, and she, like, I could imagine if my mom was like, hey, Rachel, take this photo of the family together, and it was everyone but Rachel. I mean, I would speak up, and like, your partner, that's why I say your partner is guilty, but I would hope Rachel would be like, what? Which Rachel's such a sweetheart, she wouldn't. But if you're feeling that, like, don't be scared for the tiff to happen. Let that shit out. You need to, because I hate to say it, but if you've ever been in a fight with someone, you may find yourself being really cool after. Like, there's a lot of stories of best friends happening, and they're like, oh, we got in a fist fight and now we're best friends, or we got in a huge ass argument, or like, I know girls that are like, oh, we were fucking the same dude or something, and we were fighting over him, and now we're cool. Like, like, that happens a lot, because after like that kind of hardship, you can go one of two ways. Like, after you've broke down so many walls with one person, you can go the way of like, oh my God, we're really close, because you have to understand that intimacy and deepness, it's as above, so below. It's yin and yang. And so if you hate someone really deeply, that means you can love them really deeply too. And that's just the God honest truth. And so if you've broke down a lot of walls with them through an argument, and you have them at a vulnerable place, that means they're at a vulnerable place for you to love them, or a vulnerable place for you to hate them. And so all in all, you can make the choice. And so if you want to build a relationship through reality, then sometimes it does end in tiffs. And that's one thing my mom told me, and that's one thing I've told Rachel about her, her nephew hitting the ball at the table. I'm like, yo, me and Amy can get through that little conversation. We'll be tighter after. Like, because we're close. Like, Amy's close enough with me to call me the fuck out, and I'm close enough with her to be like, what? Yo, you're tripping. But if our relationship was, desk secretary style, she might like text Rachel like, yo, did Ricky make a face? And Rachel's like, Ricky, did you make it? Like, all that middleman shit is going to make us farther and farther apart, and it's going to create lanes of gossip that never existed, right? And so you got to beat that, right? Like, don't be scared to have your own relationship with your in-laws, and that should help creating your own relationship with your in-laws will help deeply because it'll allow you the space to speak up when you need to. And it's all about how you do it. But like, if you have a relationship with your in-laws, right, and your mother-in-law is bombarding you and she walks in the door one day, you could be like, yo, Ashley, or what, let's say her name's Marilyn. Yo, Marilyn, like, you got to knock, sister. Like, and you guys can laugh it off, and hopefully next time she never does it again, right? But if you don't have your own relationship, you're just gonna be like, oh my God, I wasn't expecting you. And then you're texting your husband, yo, what the fuck? Like, this is annoying, while your husband's at work potentially, whatever it may be. And yeah, that type of stuff can all get filtered out just through you if you have a working relationship with your in-law. So I would say if you're going to walk away from this episode with like tangible things, because let me break it down to things you can actually count on your finger, work on a working relationship with your in-law, right? And so that comes through a lot of things. It comes through good experiences, but it also comes through, you know, trials and hardship, trials and tribulations and hardship. So don't be scared for that. Now I'm talking to your partner, another tangible thing. Like I said with the picture reference, if my mom ever said that to Rachel, I would speak up and be like, yo, what? Like, Rachel's is the fucking family. Like, no, she's not taking the photo. Like, Rachel, get in the photo. Like, what? Why would you even say that? And I'd probably have a follow-up with my mom too. Like, yo, no, absolutely not. And so that. Next, the tangible thing you need to do is identify the relationship that you're looking for. Obviously, it's all fine and dandy if you're looking for a mom and this mother-in-law wants to be involved and you're like, oh my God, I've never had a mommy. Like, it feels so good that your mom is so involved. Perfect. You guys are probably off in fucking Candyland and you don't need this episode. So that's awesome. And then the last thing I think I need to say is like, know that your partner is absolutely not responsible. So that is, if they're the victim, right? They're the one being bombarded by your mother, your father, they're the one under scrutiny. It is not their fucking job to therapy out your family. Like, you need to work with your family for them to approach your partner respectfully. Because if they're not treating your partner with the same respect that you are treating your partner, then they should not be invited to the cookout. And what I mean by that is, if you're not going to blatantly disrespect your partner, then your family shouldn't be blatantly disrespecting your partner either. And if you allow that type of treatment, you're the fucking problem. Because if you hold your family at high regard, this is how I'll say it. If disrespecting your partner is a 10, or respecting, I should say, if respecting your partner is a 10 and your family is a 10, right? Like on the emotion scale, like you love them, blah, 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 blah. It's important to you. If your family disrespects your partner, that should be an 11. That should be something that is more emotionally, requires more emotional attention than anything else, right? You can't say, oh, they just disrespected my partner, like, but it's not as important as keeping the peace. It's more important. No peace is allotted. You must attack this situation. It is mandatory. And so I'll give you one story. I'll give you one more anecdote. When we did the gender reveal for Laguna, God bless my mom. She's outspoken. My mom is 45. She says what's on her mind. She's out of control. Oftentimes I got to sit her down and say, Jen, stop what you're doing, sister. Right? Me and my mom have a very like friend relationship at this point in my life, and it's beautiful and I love it. But Rachel got pregnant 2 months after we met. So she's just getting used to Jen. And my girl Jen, she fucking love her. We find out Laguna's a girl, and Jen looks at Rachel and goes, oh, I was hoping for a boy. And if that didn't just make you like look up at the sky and be like, what the fuck would she say that for? Mind you, like hormonal peak for Rachel, right? And Rachel cries because she's like, oh my God, I feel like I'm letting your family down. And it rightfully so. Rachel has every right to feel upset. Like, it would be the same as if you just bought a fucking Range Rover and you drove it home and everyone was like, oh, you didn't get a Mercedes? That's whack. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, I'm trying to share a moment with you and you want to say how shitty it is. And Rachel looks at me, she's like, yo, are you cool with that? And I'm like, no, I mean, I'm like, oh shit. Like, I gotta do something about this. Because in the moment, Rachel didn't have her own moment with my mom because they really just met. It's probably 3 months in their relationship. So I walk in to my mom's house and I'm like, dog, absolutely the fuck not. Like, you can't do that. First of all, that's disrespect. And I used the same analogy. My mom is a macro coach, and I told her, I'm like, yo, this is exactly what I said. My mom is a macro coach, and she got into the gym when she turned 40 practically. So like this is very late in her life. And I said, yo, mom, when you were getting into all this and you were so passionate about it and you were so excited about it at its peak moment, could you imagine if someone looked at you and was like, ah, man, I wish you did this, or you did that shitty, or like, what the fuck? No, that's not exciting. Like, just shit on you, right? So like, you just got your first client, and I look at you and I'm like, ah, damn, you didn't get 2 clients, whack. Like, how would you feel? Like someone just shit on you in that moment. And so Rachel's super excited to have this girl. She wanted a girl. She'd been saying, I want a girl, I want a girl, I want a girl. And in the same moment she finds out, you're like, I kind of was hoping for a boy. Like, what? You gotta go. Hell no. And so we battled it out. And she's like, no, I hear you, my bad. And she told her straight up, yo, I'm sorry, I love you. And it all worked out and everything's kosher. And if me and Rachel ever have another baby at that gender reveal, my mom could probably be like, oh shit, it's not this. And everyone would just like laugh it off because we already went through that situation, because we already addressed that situation. We know it's in good light. We know it's in good fashion this time. And so you are obligated to set the boundary for your partner. And if you're not doing that and you're listening to this and you know you're guilty of that, you need to address that. Anyway, I told you I'd touch on it briefly, but if your monster-in-laws are actually monsters and they're piece of shit people, you do not have to invite them in your life. Like, you can have a relationship, you can build a relationship outside of inviting them in your life. And what I mean by that, hear me when I say this, if your mother-in-law is a fucking drug addict, and right, she's a drug addict and she does nothing but ask your husband for money, and your husband's giving it away, you have every right to say, listen to me, I know that is your mommy, I understand she's going through a hard time, this is our family now, you will support this family before you go putting us on the line, putting our financial bit, whatever it may be that they're helping. I'm giving a cliche scenario because this really does happen to real people. You cannot put us at risk for what is now your outside family, because this is your family. This is your now immediate family. You live with me now. We have a kid together. Immediate family. That is your outside family. You cannot put us at jeopardy so you can help them out. What we can do is, if your mom goes to rehab and we have extra money, we may be able to throw extra money. Say you don't have extra money. If your mom goes to rehab, we can go visit her without the kids. We can visit her 5 times without the kids. She's clean every time. Whatever it may. I know this sounds cliche. I know this sounds dramatic. If you're not in this situation, I totally understand. But this does happen to real people. You can build that relationship before you invite the children in, before you invite the Thanksgiving dinner in. You are obligated to allow that water flow into your ravine as you like. You are the dam. Okay? Look, I wish you all good luck with your mother-in-law, with your father-in-law, with your monster-in-law, with your daughter-in-law. And if you are the daughter-in-law or you're the son-in-law and you're being a fucking prick, stop. You will never, and I say this to Rachel all the time about her family living across the country. I say, I know I will never get the complete Rachel, the one that is really her best self, unless you have a good working relationship with your family, even though they're far away. And Rachel's happiest times are when we're in Florida, and I'm getting the best her in those moments a lot of the time. So don't be a fucking prick. Okay. All right. I love you all. Next episode is talking shit about your partner to your family, which will tie into this greatly. And if you do that, you're the worst. Love you. Bye.